Secretary of the United States, Ann Romney, and the next President of the United States, Mitt Romney.
Liquid sunshine up here. We're all used to that down in Florida. You know, yesterday I had the opportunity of coming up and I ran a little 5K race up there in the digital domain for New Horizons. And then this morning I ran another 5-mile race. Well, what we want to talk about today is the real race. The race for the United States of America. It's a race between what is simply called the Opportunity Society versus the Dependency Society. And what you saw Wednesday night was when the Opportunity Society takes the stage with the Dependency Society. The Opportunity Society wins. We're talking about limited government. We're talking about fiscal responsibility. We're talking about your individual sovereignty. We're talking about the free market. And we're talking about a strong national defense that believes in peace through strength. The other side, as you saw them dropping their head and they couldn't make eye contact with the good governor, that's because they don't believe in it. They believe in taking over more of our production. And you see that each and every day. They believe in creating and expanding a welfare nanny state. And you see that with the unemployment. You see that with the food stamps. You see that with Americans in poverty. They don't believe in your individual sovereignty. They believe in taking more of your rights and freedoms and your liberties. They don't believe in the free market. They believe in government, trickle-down government, as the governor talked about.
Sorry.
That's
no problem.
America.
Okay.
They honestly don't understand that weakness is provocative, and that's why we see our embassies being attacked. That's why we see our flags being torn down. But let me tell you something. We got a man today that's going to right that ship. We got a man today, and he's got a partner. As we would say in the military, his foxhole buddy. They're going to make a difference for the United States of America. They're going to restore that sense of American exceptionalism. They're going to restore that sense of uniqueness and pride that make us the greatest nation that the world has ever known. I'm proud to be standing next year with Governor Mitt Romney, to let him know that when he becomes our next president, he has a loyal lieutenant in the United States House of Representatives. Because we're going to win this House race right here.
Yes, sir!
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce another person that is leading the fight. She led the fight against the Affordable Care Act. And we're going to continue to put the pressure on the Affordable Care Act because we're not going to have government subsuming your rights and liberties when it comes to the most personal decisions you have. And that's your health care.
That's right.
Introduce the Attorney General of this great state of Florida.
Different visions on the path that our country is going to take, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Barack Obama is leading us down a path of tragic failure. Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan have a clear and concise vision for our country. We cannot take 4 more years of what we have.
No!
Let me tell you about Joe Biden. What we've had in the last 4 years is the middle class suffering tremendously.
Yes.
47 million people on food stamps. 1 in 6 Americans on the poverty level. 23,000 Americans searching for jobs. 23 million Americans searching for jobs. 582 manufacturing jobs have been lost under Barack Obama, and that is unacceptable. He's overreaching, and I'm well aware of it, very well aware of it, with the Obamacare fund. What did he tell you all? It wasn't a tax. Now we know it's the largest tax increase in our history. What did he say? It wouldn't hurt the middle class. It's tremendously hurting the middle class. What did he say? You can keep your health insurance. Not true. Over 20 million Americans can lose their health coverage through their employers under Obamacare. Rated Medicare by $716 billion. By those numbers, Medicare will be bankrupt by 2024. Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan on day 1 will start to repeal and replace future generations. And I've personally gotten to know Mitt and Romney, and they are two of the finest, most down-to-earth, wonderful people that I know. Let me tell you, we can't wait to see Ann Romney as our First Lady. The next president of the United States.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi. Your welcome here today is warm and in my heart. This is an extraordinary sight to see all of you gathered here today in Port St. Lucie. We're going to win Florida. We're going to take back the White House. Today, someone who I met in elementary school. I didn't notice her terribly much in elementary school, but I did notice her when she was just about 16 in high school. We went to a party at a friend's house, and she went with someone else. I happened to see her there. I went to the fellow she came with, and I said, look, I live closer to Ann's house than you do. Why don't you ride home? He agreed. We've been going steady ever since. Please say hi to the next First Lady, Ann Romney.
In Christmas time, especially down here, escaping the cold of Boston when my parents were living in Stuart, Florida. chance for the American people, what the chance they got to see my husband as I see him, a good and decent person.
Yes.
Has exhibited his care for others, and now we're going to get a chance for him to really care for others, because we're going to have the chance to see him get people back to work again. Thank you. So I'm thrilled to be here. What an honor it is, and thank you all very much.
Love you,
Love
Thank you, Ann.
Love you, Ed. Go ahead.
This week, and I enjoyed myself. This is a good opportunity for the President and I to talk to each other about the issues that people care about. It was a debate of substance. The moderator, Jim Lehrer, I thought did a nice job of raising topics for us to each discuss, and we spoke about those things. I got the chance to ask some of the questions that people across America had wanted to ask the President. I asked him, for instance, why it was that with 23 million Americans out of work or struggling to find a good job, he spent his first 2 years fighting for Obamacare instead of fighting for them. I had to ask him why it was with gasoline prices almost twice as high as when he took office. He spent his time cutting in half the number of permits and licenses for drilling oil and gas in this country. I have to ask him as well why with huge deficits, he spent $90 billion investing in companies like Solyndra. With him having said in the past that these levels of deficits that he'd seen in the past were considered un-American by him, why he doubled those deficits and put in place almost as much debt held by the public as all the prior presidents combined. And then, of course, I have one last question. That was, well, why was it when he ran for office, he promised that by this year, health insurance premiums would be down by $2,500.
Liar. No way.
Gotta let him go. Let him go.
$50,000 a year. That $5,000 difference is a huge difference to the American people. And so I'm convinced that you'll have the chance to hear his answers or his not answers.
Yeah.
Now, of course, days later, we're hearing his excuses. And next January, we'll be watching you leave the White House. We did agree in some areas. One area we agreed upon was that we're going to take two very different views about where America would go. My path is very different than the path that he would pursue. His path, for instance, would continue to raise deficits larger. We'd have deficits of $1 trillion a year for each of the next 4 years. That would lead to national debt of roughly $20 trillion. I'm convinced that would crush the American dream for our children. I think it's both wrong economically. I think it's immoral. My path is instead to cut federal spending, to cap federal spending, and get us on track to a balanced budget. You probably heard the Vice President. He worded out the truth again this week. He said they are, in fact, going to raise taxes by $1 trillion. Actually, with Obamacare, it really becomes $2 trillion. That, of course, will make it harder for small businesses to hire people and to employ people. It'll make it harder for middle-income families. By the way, a study came out this week that showed with all his spending and all his borrowing and all the interest on that debt, that he will ultimately have to raise taxes on middle-income families by $4,000 a year. This commitment I make to you, I will not raise taxes on middle-class families. If he is re-elected, he will install Obamacare. And with it, your premiums are going to go up an extra $2,500 above what they already are in your current health care plan. That's according to the Congressional Budget Office. My plan is that I will finally get control of the excessive cost of health care by repealing and replacing Obamacare with real reform.
Tort reform.
You see that big sign behind me? Well, you can kind of see that big sign behind me. You saw it earlier. The president admitted that under Obamacare, under his plan, he is cutting $716 billion from Medicare. And by the way, that amounts to for $44 billion right here in Florida. It would mean that 540,000 Floridians would lose Medicare Advantage. I can tell you this. When Paul Ryan is elected vice president, I'm elected president, we'll restore that money to Medicare and honor the promise made to our citizens.
Good jobs plan.
Basically said it's the status quo. He's going to keep doing what he's been doing. He wants another stimulus.
Yeah, and all those stars.
He wants to hire more government workers. He wants to pick winners and losers between cylinders, actually losers in his case.
Yeah.
And we know what that means. We've seen the last 4 years. We don't want 4 more years like the last year. I have a plan that takes advantage of the extraordinary opportunity that exists in America right now. That's going to get this economy going and create jobs, and more jobs.
Yeah.
12 million jobs in specific. And they're number 1. Take advantage of our oil, our coal, our gas.
Yes!
Because they don't get 3.5 to 4 million new jobs, not just in the energy sector, but also in manufacturing and other sectors, as our energy is low cost and abundant. That's number 1. Number 2, we're going to make trade work for us by opening up markets, particularly in Latin America. And we're going to crack down on any nation that cheats on trade like China's been cheating. Number 3, we're going to make sure our workers have the skills they need to succeed, so we're going to take our training programs in Washington, of which there are 47. That report to 8 agencies. Think of all the overhead and the waste. I'm going to take the money that comes from that. I'm going to give Florida its fair share and say, Florida, you train your people.
Yes! That's right.
Country learn some of the lessons that have been taught right here in Florida by your great governor, Jeb Bush. He did a great job. He grades schools in Florida, A through F, so you know which schools are doing well and which are not. And if a school fails consistently, well, then kids are given a choice to go to another school. We're going to make sure that nationally we grade our schools and we finally give parents and children the choice to choose their own school. And by the way, the key to education is going to be this. Put the kids and their parents and the teachers first and the teachers' union behind.
I know, too
small
bad.
businesses to grow and thrive, or big businesses to grow if they think we're on the road to Greece, and that's why it's so critical that we finally balance our budget. I'll do that. And number 5, one more. We have to champion small business. That's where jobs. The president's tax plan will kill 700,000 jobs. Mostly in small business. My plan will help create 7 million jobs. My tax plan, I'm going to keep the taxes down on small business. I'm going to get regulators to encourage small business, not crush them. And we're going to take that big cloud that kills jobs away from small business. We're going to get rid of Obamacare.
Yes.
I want you to know that great days are ahead. America's greatest days are not in the past.
Thank you.
Maybe a little cloudy today, but the sunshine is coming through. Throughout my life to see something about the great qualities of the human spirit exhibited in the American people time and time again. I know something about great human beings in this country. It's that gives me the confidence that our future will be so bright, because I've seen how Americans respond to challenge and even to tragedy. I was in Atlanta for an event not terribly long ago, and one of my classmates from business school was there. He had been involved in an accident a few years ago and had become quadriplegic. He only moved his face and mouth, and he has to be moved around in a wheelchair, and yet he, on a hot day, had made the effort to be there in a crowd to cheer one of his classmates, and it touched my heart to see him. I motioned him to come forward. I saw a party where he was coming through, people moving aside so they could get his chair up close to the front, and he came up, and I put my hand on his shoulder, and I recall all that he'd been doing over the last several years, despite his great tragedy. He stayed involved in his businesses and had devoted himself to spinal cord research so that other people wouldn't suffer the same kind of tragic loss of his ability as he had suffered. So I put my hand on his shoulder, and I reached over and I said, Billy, I love you and God bless you. It was a great occasion to say hi to my good friend. He passed away the next day. And I thought what a blessing it was for me to see him on that last day and acknowledge to him my respect for him. It reminded me of an experience I had some years before. I was serving as a pastor in my congregation at church, and the young fellow in our ward, David Oprowski, his parents from Medford, Massachusetts, his dad a firefighter, his mom a stay-at-home mom. They raised their 2 sons, but at age 14, David contracted leukemia and became very, very ill. It was clear that there was no good conclusion to this leukemia. It was very severe and fast-moving. I used to visit their home regularly, and one day he asked me to come into his room without his parents, and I sat down next to him, and he said, what happens next? And I spoke with him about what I believe happens next, and some weeks later, when he was in the hospital and things were quite severe, he got in touch with me and asked me if I'd come to the hospital. He said, you went to law school, right? And I said, yes. He said, I'd like you to write a will for me. And so I got a big piece of legal pad, and he proceeded to describe the things he wanted to give away: his skateboard, his fishing rod, who they'd go to, and of course his rifle to his brother. This is a boy who had courage. I didn't see him waver. I saw strength in his eyes. I was reminded some years later when I saw that vision on TV. Clear eyes, full heart, can't lose. David can't lose. I love the greatness of the soul of the American people. I was at the Republican convention here just a few weeks ago in Tampa. You got a chance to meet a young woman named Jane Horton from Oklahoma. Her husband went off to serve in Afghanistan. And on the day she was packaging up a birthday package for him, she received a knock at the door which told her husband had been killed there. At the funeral for her husband, there were those misguided protesters. Remember that, with these protesters? Yeah. Our servicemen and women, and came to that service for her husband, and people asked her, the media asked her, what do you think about these people protesting at your husband's funeral? And she said this, and I quote, Chris died for them to be able to protest. This is our nation.
USA! 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 USA!
I love this people. I believe in America. I believe in you. I believe in our fellow citizens. I believe we can take back this country. Of the American people, to make us more united as a people, to have us pull together, to reach across the aisle and find good Democrats in the House and the Senate that care deeply about America, just as I do. I know they're there. I know they'll work together if they have leadership that will actually work and share credit and find ways to solve our great challenges. I know that's going to happen. I'm looking forward to the chance to be in Washington as a leader. Of those who serve, men and women in the military, but all those who are veterans or those in active duty, please raise your hand to be recognized by the audience. Oh, beautiful America, heroes proved in liberating strife, with more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. It's a great nation. I was in Poland a few weeks ago and got to meet with Lech Walesa, a world hero. I came in, he said, Mr. Romney, you've come a long distance. You sit, I'll talk, you listen. So I did. I sat down and he said this, where's American leadership? The world needs American leadership. We need American lead. And then he spoke about various places in the world, and after each description of one place or another, he would reiterate, where is American leadership? I commit to you, I will be a leader. When I'm president, I will take the care that it takes to lead.
American leader! American leader! Poke my eye. It's like this.
Vibrant economy that can care for our families and can care for a military second to none, and I will keep our military so strong. This is our time.
Your time.
I was in San Diego, a great military town, a Navy town, a Marine town. I was there for the celebration of Memorial Day. I was on a stage giving a speech, and there were 3 or 4, I think 4 members of the armed services, veterans who had served in the Second World War. The one closest to me had been the lookout on the USS Tennessee in Pearl Harbor on the day of the attack. He said his eyes locked on the eyes of the pilot bringing in the armament that would hit their ships. He was injured in the blast, but went on to serve for 33 more years in the U.S. Navy. These men and women of the greatest generation are not as many as there used to be. They're getting older. And they can't hold the torch as high as they used to hold it. The torch of freedom, hope, and opportunity. They held it for us. They held it for the world to see. But now it's our turn. We have to take that torch and hold it aloft. And we will together. I need you to go out there and fight.
Yes!